Are you struggling to get LucidLink working smoothly in Premiere Pro? Overwhelmed by the cost of a bloated file space? Or maybe you're just here to learn more about remote video editing workflows because you don't want to go into the office every day. Welcome. I've managed file spaces from 3 terabyte freelance operations to 100 terabyte enterprise deployments. I'm here to share my secrets of over 5 years of using LucidLink and what I have found to be one of the best workflows out there. Let's set the stage of the most common problems with LucidLink. Navigating to the LucidLink website, we immediately see the first one, $27 per user and $64 per terabyte. Sure, you get some free space per user, but space costs will add up quick. Even small media companies can be in the hundreds of terabytes. Second, 4K media. Most commonly, you'll be working with 4K media or higher nowadays. And if you've ever tried to stream 4K ProRes or even ProRes Proxy, you know how difficult that is on Lucid, and even more difficult on slower internet connections. And by slower, I mean anything under 1 gig symmetrical. Unfortunately, most homes and even some office buildings can't get those speeds. So if you can even get your media up there in the first place, you may not even be able to play it back properly on Lucid. This leads me to my last problem, pre-caching, or as known in Lucid, pinning. Now, you may be thinking, how is this a problem? It's actually the solution to the last problem of internet speed. Just pre-cache your content if your internet is too slow. The problem comes from single projects could be in the terabytes. Where are you going to cache this? At this point, everyone you're working with may as well have 20 terabyte RAIDs on their desk with all the media they need. The idea of caching as a solution falls apart quickly at scale. So what is the solution that can combat these common problems? A single solution to address the problems at the source. If we boil it down, it comes down to one factor. Let me explain. Large media means large bit rates, so slow streaming. Large bit rates means large file sizes, so high cost. To address all the problems in one go, that means we need to reduce our file size. How do we reduce our file size? We compress. Now, traditionally, you've probably heard that compressed media is not for the edit suite. Only on final export do we compress for our destination. Editing is done with the uncompressed original media. This idea makes a lot of sense. Keep all the visual quality for maximum flexibility in post. Then once the edit, the color grade, the VFX, the music, everything is all done, we can purge this additional data because we no longer need it to work on the project. That's all YouTube wants, for example, your final product, not all the data it took you to get there. But this is at odds with the problems of LucidLink and remote video editing in general. In a remote environment, you do not have the luxury of a fast local server to store all of your media. Everything on the internet is compressed to save bandwidth, space, and money. The less you use of both, the less it costs to host anything on the internet. So, what I'm about to show you in this workflow might sound unthinkable to those coming from the background of everything is always uncompressed until final, but I'll ask you to hear me out. Truth is, compression has come a long way. Even ProRes is technically a compressed format, but it's known for being virtually lossless. Compression is not new to the edit process. The answer I have found is HEVC, also known as H.265. The evolution of H.264, the hero of all web delivery formats, gave us the magical H.265. Converting your raw media to H.265 solves all of the most common problems with LucidLink. You'll save 60 to 80% of file size over camera originals. Smaller size means easier to upload, stream back, and you'll be paying 60 to 80% less in LucidLink bills. Compression always takes something away. That's how it works. But I'd argue that we have reached the point in visual fidelity where we can afford to lose some of it. Take a look at this comparison. Almost nothing noticeable. Zooming into 300%, you can start to spot the differences, but under normal viewing conditions, this is not noticeable. I know the YouTube compression is masking some of the differences. The camera originals in H.265 are available for download in the description so you can see for yourself. Before I show you the exact process I use to make H.265 files, I'd like to address some immediate criticism. First, editing uncompressed formats is too slow in Premiere. This isn't necessarily true anymore. Very compressed formats still have issues, but H.265 is actually accelerated on Premiere on both Mac and Windows machines. The Apple M series machines especially have hardware decoding for H.265, and that works in Premiere. Second, HEVC is too time-consuming to create. This is true if you're trying to use Media Encoder. For some reason, Adobe has a hard time creating H.265s, but no problem at all playing them back. I will show you what apps I use to make H.265s in the next section. Lastly, and probably the most common criticism, is you cannot finish in H.265. You must relink to Camera Originals always. This is sometimes true, but I ask you to challenge that belief because it may not be as true as you think. The quality of H.265 is so good that for many corporate, web, event, or even TV content, we can finish in H.265 without ever going back to the original media. What we are visually losing in H.265 may not be important to your final delivery destination. That said, you can always relink to your originals if you need to, and sometimes you need to if your source media was RAW, like Red RAW or ARRI RAW, and you want to get the full color information for the grade. Alternatively, in those scenarios, you can use the steps outlined in this video to create the best possible proxy workflow for LucidLink, and then just relink to your originals before the final export. You wouldn't want to even try to upload or play back any sort of raw media from Lucid. I have personally tried this and tested it with an 8 gig connection and it does not work. And unless you have an 8 terabyte SSD RAID to cache this to, you may as well not even try and use this workflow for proxies. So let's get into the process. On a Mac with Apple Silicon or a PC with an NVIDIA graphics card, we're going to use Resolve. Resolve is the best tool that I have found for making H.265 transcodes, and even the free version works. Just be aware of the limitations. Here, I have Resolve Studio on an M3 Pro MacBook Pro. I'm going to import my media, ProRes in this case. I've got a couple of clips here, and you can see here that the total size of these 7 clips is about 21 gigs. Remember this for later. So I'm going to select all my media. I'm going to go File, Media Management, and I'm going to go to Clips, and then Transcode. I'm going to make sure that all media is selected. This is super important. I'm going to unselect Use Project Name Subfolder, and I'm going to preserve my folder hierarchy. Now, the really cool thing about preserving folder hierarchy is that if you have camera cards like A1, A2, A3, A4, and then multiple folders inside of there, it'll retain that structure when it recreates the media. So I'm going to set that for, say, 3 folder levels. And then I'm going to go to Video, and this is really where the magic happens. I'm going to select H.265. I'm going to select Render at Source Resolution, make sure that's checked, that one is super important. And then I'm going to go to Audio, and normally leaving it on default is fine, but just double check the settings here. You just need to make sure that you select Same as Source. And this is super important if you're using this for proxies, or if you're using this to relink later back to your originals. Premiere has a problem with relinking media or unlinking the relinking media that has different audio channel configurations. Okay, so then I'm just going to select where this is going to go. And then click Start. Now you can see, even on this machine, I am speeding this up. It is quite fast. Okay, now that the export is done, let's take a look at the file size. So, as we can see here, it's 640 megabytes compared to the original 21 gigabytes. That is so much less space. It's going to be so much quicker to upload and so much faster to play back. So now I'm going to go over to my Premiere and I'm going to import this media. You'll see how fast it imports. And then put this into the timeline. You can see here that this is playing back super smooth as if it was ProRes proxy, but this is being streamed to me from LucidLink, from the internet. So I can come in here and I can make some edits and I can make some changes and I can overlap some footage. Play it back at the same time. It really does just work. So now, imagine if this project scaled up significantly, hundreds of clips into the terabytes or hundreds of gigs of proxies. Can you imagine what the seek times would be on original media? Significantly worse. And just to show you, here on screen now, you're going to see what original media looks like seeking compared to what I just showed you of H.265s. It is so much slower, and again, the more you scale, the slower this will be. Not only editing, but even opening the projects and refining the media takes forever. This wraps up the best LucidLink workflow for Premiere Pro. Let me know your thoughts and comments below, and I'll be in there to answer any questions you have. As always, there isn't one workflow that works for everyone. I encourage you to take parts of this and incorporate it in ways that works best for you. If you learned something new, please consider subscribing. I'm all about making content for remote video editors and finding out what the latest and greatest tools are in this industry. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.